Have you noticed how anxious they've become about your next move, chosen one? It's not a coincidence. Your energy is shifting, and they can sense the power rising within you. They know that whatever you're about to do next is going to shake things up in ways they're not prepared for. The weight of your potential, the unpredictability of your strength, it's making them nervous. They've tried to undermine you, to keep you second-guessing yourself, but deep down, they fear what you're about to unleash. And that fear, it's only growing. God is not just building your confidence, He is shifting your entire foundation, making you stand taller, more unshakable. You've spent so much of your life in the background, carefully managing the peace, ensuring that things went smoothly for everyone around you, while diminishing your own power. But this is the season where God is sharpening that peaceful demeanor into something that commands respect. What was once mistaken for passivity is now a quiet storm of authority, an undeniable force that no longer hides behind humility. You don't need to raise your voice or prove anything. Your presence alone does the talking now. The way people perceive you has changed, not because you've become someone different, but because your inner strength is finally visible. Your confidence has grown into something solid, like iron forged in the fire of your past struggles. Every challenge you've faced has contributed to this transformation, and now, when you walk into any situation, there's a weight to your presence that no one can ignore. You don't need permission, you don't ask for validation, because you've been molded by a higher power. Those who underestimated you before can't quite grasp what's happening now. They only know that you are no longer the person they thought they knew. At work, you were always the dependable one, the quiet force behind the scenes, the one who ensured everything stayed afloat. People relied on you but never truly saw you. And then, when the pressure built and a crucial project teetered on the edge of disaster, you stepped in, not just to help, but to take command. Your actions were swift, decisive, and unapologetic. Those who once took your contributions for granted now scramble to keep up, their uncertainty palpable. They're nervous, watching you with a sense of unease, because they see your power, but don't fully understand its source. What they don't realize is that your confidence isn't just a product of experience. It's divinely crafted. It has layers they will never comprehend, layers that are rooted in a calling far beyond their scope. Their nervous glances, their sudden hesitations, all stem from the realization that you are not simply playing a role anymore. You are stepping into your true identity, one that can no longer be confined by the expectations or limitations they've placed on you. God has built something unbreakable within you, and now they are forced to deal with the consequences of having underestimated you for so long. God is guiding you to stand your ground with unwavering strength. You are no longer the person who swallows their words to maintain a fragile peace, no longer the one who lets others' actions slide in silence. Now you've been given the voice of authority, one that rings out with clarity and leaves no space for manipulation. Where others once saw your kindness as a weakness, they now see it as the boundary that marks your unyielding resolve. God has stripped away any doubt, placing you in a position where your firmness commands respect, whether they give it willingly or not. In your family, where passive-aggressive remarks once flew like arrows in your direction, there was a time when you would let them hit without protest. You would absorb the disrespect in the name of keeping the peace, even when it chipped away at your own self-respect. But not anymore. God has strengthened you to the point where silence is no longer an option, and now, each word you speak lands like a hammer, breaking through the long-standing facade. At a family gathering, the subtle jabs come your way as they always have, but this time, something shifts. You no longer let the remarks wash over you. Instead, you face them head-on, with a calm yet firm voice, making it clear that the disrespect ends here. You don't raise your voice, but the weight of your words hangs in the air like thunder before a storm. They never expected you to speak up, and the shock in their faces shows it. They've spent years underestimating your strength, mistaking your kindness for submission, but now they can no longer ignore the wall of boundaries you've built with God's guidance. The energy shifts, not in the way that makes anyone panic, but in the undeniable realization that you are no longer the same person they once manipulated with ease. Your silence has transformed into power, and your boundaries are no longer negotiable. They can feel it, and the tension comes not from fear, but from their sudden recognition of your divine authority. God has equipped you to stand tall, unmovable, even when the familiar faces around you reel from the shock of your change. What once felt like the weight of others' expectations on your shoulders has now been lifted, replaced with the armor of conviction. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to fight to be understood. Your presence is enough, and now they must reckon with the new reality. You are no longer a target of their disrespect, but a force they cannot control. People aren't just surprised by your transformation, they're rattled, shaken to the core. The ones who once thought they had you figured out, who believed they could keep you trapped in their games, now realize those days are gone. The script has flipped, and you're no longer the passive participant in their manipulations. They feel the weight of your resolve, a force that cuts through their tactics like a blade. The reason they're so unsettled isn't just because you changed, it's because they never thought you would. You've peeled back the layers of deception, and now every move you make leaves them scrambling to understand a power they never saw coming. A close friend, someone who has always leaned on your generosity as a crutch, suddenly finds themselves facing an unrecognizable version of you. When they casually ask for help with something trivial, expecting the same response they've always gotten, they're met with a quiet but firm no. That single word shakes them to their core. For the first time, they see that your boundaries are real, impenetrable, and that they no longer have the access they once took for granted. The air doesn't thicken, but it tightens around them as the realization dawns. You're no longer their safety net, and they can't manipulate you into bending anymore. This isn't about withholding kindness. It's about recognizing the difference between genuine support and exploitation. Your refusal to continue playing the role they assigned you isn't a loss of compassion, it's the awakening of your self-worth. They thought they could predict your actions, mold you to their convenience. But those days are over, and now they're left scrambling, unsure of how to navigate this new dynamic. It's no longer their game to play, and that terrifies them more than anything. Your boundaries have become the walls they can no longer scale. They're shook, not just because you said no, but because that no is a reflection of the power they've always underestimated. They sense the finality in your actions, the resolve that they can no longer crack. Now every interaction with you is layered with uncertainty for them because you've taken back control. They can't predict your moves anymore, and that leaves them unsettled, spinning in the chaos of their own manipulations. You've become the force they didn't see coming, and now they have no choice but to adjust or fall apart trying. God is stripping away the layers of deception, lifting the veil that once clouded your vision. You're no longer trapped in the fog of false pretenses or hollow promises. What used to feel like meaningful connections are now exposed as shallow transactional exchanges. The people who once seemed genuine are revealed for what they truly are: users, manipulators, and takers. Their carefully crafted masks are crumbling before your eyes, and for the first time you're seeing the truth with undeniable clarity. God is removing these illusions because it's time for you to step into your power, unburdened by those who are only holding you back. You've always been generous with your energy, giving the benefit of the doubt to those around you, trusting that their intentions match their words. But God has opened your eyes. In a long-term relationship, where you once overlooked subtle manipulations, believing they were acting in your best interest, you now see the cracks. Every little concession you made, every small compromise you accepted to keep the peace, was part of a larger pattern of control. The veil has been torn, and there's no going back. You see their true intentions, and they're not aligned with the path God has set for you. With your newfound clarity, you make the bold choice to walk away, not in anger, not in haste, but with a calm and deliberate decision to prioritize your peace over their comfort. You no longer need their approval or validation, because you understand that their presence in your life was never about mutual growth. It was about their need to control. The shift is seismic, and the ground beneath them crumbles as they realize they've lost the control they once held over you. Their reaction is confusion mixed with panic. They scramble to understand how they could have lost their grip so suddenly. But it wasn't sudden, was it? God had been preparing you for this moment, removing the illusions piece by piece until there was nothing left but the stark truth. Now they are left bewildered, unable to manipulate or guilt you into staying. You've chosen yourself, your peace, and your divine path. And in that decision, you've broken free. Their attempts to regain control fall flat, powerless against the strength God has built within you. The illusions are gone, and with them, their influence over you has evaporated entirely. You are no longer bound by the lies that once held you captive. Now you walk in a power that is undeniable, a strength that commands the atmosphere without effort. What used to be a passive existence, shaped by others' manipulations, has been replaced by an authority that you can feel coursing through your being. This is not just about finding your voice. It's about stepping into a role you were always meant to fill. God has removed every obstacle, every false narrative that others used to control your actions, and now you stand unshaken, rooted in truth. Your authority isn't given by man, it's divinely orchestrated, and nothing can take it from you. At a community meeting, where you've always sat quietly in the background, something shifts. The decision on the table is flawed, but no one is willing to challenge it. You've watched this dynamic play out time and time again, but today is different. Today you speak. Your words are precise, cutting through the confusion and exposing the flaws in the decision-making process. The room doesn't just hear you, they feel the weight behind every word. Eyes turn, conversations halt, and the entire atmosphere shifts. You didn't have to raise your voice because your authority speaks for itself. The power dynamics change instantly. The people in charge, who once dismissed you as a quiet observer, can no longer ignore your presence. They try to regain control, but it's too late. The balance has already tipped in your favor. The authority you now walk in isn't up for negotiation, and the truth you've spoken has left no room for manipulation. Your words carry a gravity they weren't prepared for, and now they're left scrambling to adjust to this new reality where your voice matters. This moment is not just about you speaking up. It's a declaration that you will no longer be sidelined or silenced. You are walking in your authority, and everyone around you must now adjust to that undeniable truth. God is building within you a foundation of unshakable self-love and confidence, urging you to be kind to yourself and to cherish the qualities that make you unique. The lies others have spoken about you, those whispered insults and veiled criticisms, are being stripped away by divine truth. Where once you internalized their harsh judgments, you now reject them with the authority that comes from knowing who you truly are. God is lifting the veil, revealing the beauty and strength that has always been within you, but that you were too burdened to see. The self-love growing inside you is not fleeting. It is a permanent shift, elevating you above the insecurities that once clouded your vision. For years you've critiqued your own reflection, hearing the echoes of others' hurtful words about your appearance. They planted seeds of doubt that grew into a forest of self-criticism. But now, God is pulling those roots of negativity from your soul, replacing them with seeds of love. You no longer view yourself through the distorted lens of society's standards or the opinions of those who tried to dim your light. Instead, you see yourself through God's eyes, powerful, radiant, and unbothered by the superficial judgments of others. You begin to make small changes, not because you seek approval, but because you love who you are becoming. Each step you take is an act of self-care, an affirmation that you are worth the effort, the attention, and the kindness you once gave freely to others, but withheld from yourself. People notice. They can't help but see the shift. The way you walk, the way you speak, it all carries a new energy, one of undeniable confidence. They are taken aback, not understanding how you've transformed so profoundly. But they don't need to understand, because your journey of self-love and confidence isn't for them. It's for you. You've been set apart, not because you've changed to meet their standards, but because you've risen to meet God's purpose for you. And that, chosen one, is why your light now shines brighter than ever. They thought you would stay quiet, blending into the background, continuing to say yes to every demand without question. For years they mistook your kindness for weakness, assuming that your desire to keep the peace meant you would never dare disrupt their plans. But now, that illusion has crumbled. You've stopped explaining yourself, stopped justifying your every move, and this shift is shaking them to their core. The confidence God is building in you allows you to set boundaries without fear of backlash. Your voice, once soft and accommodating, now speaks with the authority of someone who knows their worth, and that terrifies them. At work, you were always the dependable one, the person everyone turned to when deadlines loomed and projects teetered on the edge of chaos. Time and again, you sacrificed your own time, bending over backward to help others while neglecting your own priorities. They grew comfortable in their assumptions, thinking you would always be available, always willing to do what they asked. But that version of you no longer exists. When your boss comes to you with yet another unreasonable request, fully expecting you to comply without question, you look them in the eye and simply say, no. There is no justification, no long-winded explanation, just a single word, sharp and unyielding. The silence that follows is deafening. Your boss, once confident in their control over you, stands there, stunned. They never anticipated this, your refusal to play their game. It's not defiance for the sake of rebellion. It's a statement of self-respect. They can no longer rely on your silence, and that realization hits them harder than any confrontation ever could. What's most unsettling to them is that you don't flinch. There's no trace of doubt in your stance, no hesitation in your voice. They see now that the power they thought they had over you has evaporated, leaving them scrambling to understand how they lost it. But you're done explaining yourself. You've found your voice, and with it, a strength that leaves those who underestimated you in disbelief. God has been testing you in ways that stretched your spirit, not to break you, but to fortify you. You've been thrown back into spaces that once rattled your peace, where you used to bend under pressure, questioning your worth. This time, you stood unmovable. The same tricks, the same traps that once ensnared you are now powerless against the strength God has built within you. What used to shake you no longer even stirs you. You passed the test, not by avoiding the challenge, but by confronting it head-on, proving to yourself and to everyone watching that your confidence is now a fortress, impenetrable and unwavering. When an old acquaintance resurfaced, hoping to pull you back into the same manipulative patterns, they thought they could still read you like an open book. But what they didn't anticipate was the new strength you've cultivated. They approached you with familiar tactics, hoping to reignite the dysfunction that once gave them control. This time, you didn't flinch. Instead of engaging in their mind games, you saw straight through the facade. Without hesitation, you made a decision rooted in your newfound clarity. You chose your peace over their drama, cutting ties without looking back. Your refusal to entertain the past left them in shock. They stood there, stunned by your calmness, unable to comprehend how the person they once manipulated now had the power to dismiss them with a single action. They expected you to fall back into old habits, but God had prepared you for this moment. You've outgrown their control, and they are left with no choice but to recognize that the power dynamic has shifted permanently. Their grip on your emotions, your decisions, and your energy is gone. The test was never about them, it was about you realizing how far you've come. Now they know what God has already shown you. You are untouchable. The days of being overlooked, dismissed, and used as a pawn in others' schemes are behind you. You're no longer the person they could manipulate with a few well-placed words, or the one who would bend just to keep the peace. You've stepped fully into the power God has placed within you, and now they're nervous, rightfully so. They're uncertain because you've become unpredictable, a force they can't control, and that shakes them to their core. But you know this: you are not standing alone. God has fortified your spirit, sharpened your vision, and prepared you for this very moment. Every move you make now is deliberate, grounded in divine purpose, and drenched in the confidence that you are chosen. You've passed the tests, broken through the barriers, and dismantled the illusions that once held you captive. Now it's time to let the world see what you've become. Keep standing firm in your authority, knowing that with every step, you are stepping into the fullness of who you are. You carry the weight of purpose, and nothing can stop what is meant for you. Now share your story. Tell the world how you broke free, how you rose from the expectations that tried to confine you. Your testimony is powerful, and it's time for others to hear it.